In Debbie Toplift's painting of Mark's Gospel entitled Naked Boy Part 1 and 2, Debbie depicts the last days and moments of Jesus' life, all inside a visual outline of the geographic city of Jerusalem. Debbie says, "In this final week of his earthly life, Jesus reveals himself as the new and living temple, the presence of God in human form. He sacrificed his life for us so we might live forever. He stood alone on the platform, head bent, body traumatized. The powers that be washed their hands and washed their hands and washed their hands. The crowd that had cried, 'Save us, Hosanna,' had lost its patience after 5 short days. 'Crucify, crucify,' pierces through the weary numbness. Patience was all that was needed. Patience is what you showed us. Stillness surrounded by panic and urgency. A silent figure in a whirlwind of noisy judgment. How could the judge of the world bear the injustice? Where was your holy anger? Patience." This is a picture of my older brother Philip. In this photo, he is 33 years old, the age of Jesus. Philip is severely autistic with other learning difficulties and disabilities. He lives in a care home and is unlikely to ever be financially independent or father children. But Philip can carry Jesus' cross. Here, he carries the cross for the whole city of Canterbury. Philip asked to be baptized a few years earlier because, as he says, "Jesus is my friend, and Jesus died for me."
We have all fallen beneath pain and sorrow at least once. Right now you might feel like you just can't get up after that fall. The pain is too much, the pressure, the stress, the burdens of life, the mental trauma may all be weighing you down. I'm being honest when I say that it's been me at regular moments through this crisis. But God knows this. He knows pain, disappointment, trauma. He stumbled, fell, and was weighed down mentally and physically. He bled, he struggled, but he continued taking steps even when they would likely lead to greater pain, a huge sacrifice, but for those around him. I have recently watched Frozen 2 far more than is necessary with my 2 kids, but one quote sticks with me. Just do the next right thing. When we have fallen, we have a choice to make, however difficult. We can choose to give up or take the next step. We are called to do the right thing, to follow God's call, to take up our cross. But sometimes we need to make the choice small. Just one step, not the giant sacrifice. Just the next good thing you can do for the next person you see, particularly if that next person is your own reflection in the mirror. Self-care is important. We also need to be aware of our privilege when we see others fall. We can't see all the burdens they may carry on their shoulders, who they have mocking them on the curb, or how far they have struggled before they stumbled. So as we think on when Jesus fell for the first time, may we remember those we have seen fall. The addict, the refugee, the criminal, the grieving, the dying, the struggling parent, the confused and scared child, the person in the mirror, and try to rise again. Help others rise again. Take the next step and rise.
I've recently been reading about Simon of Cyrene in a book by Eamon Duffy, a Catholic academic. Simon wasn't from Jerusalem. He was from a long way away, North Africa, but had probably travelled to Jerusalem for the Passover celebrations. Duffy points out that he seems to have been a random bystander in a crowd who suddenly, briefly, was pulled centre stage. Simon was an ordinary man, no apostle, no saint, a man in the crowd like us. A foreign tourist minding his own business is dragged against his will into a public execution, and his life was changed. How do we know his life was changed? Well, as Duffy points out, because of a little detail that only Mark mentions. He was the father of Alexander and Rufus. Clearly Mark expected his readers to know instantly who they were, and this must be because they were members of the Christian community. We don't know what happened to Simon next. Did his life instantly take a new direction, or did he go back to normal, trying to put the experience behind him? But we do know that, years later, his sons were followers of the same person he had helped on the way to his death. The story we tell today, and will tell again and again this week, took place not for some great abstraction, the salvation of the word, but so ordinary men and women, people like you and me, might have lives that have purpose and shape.
Veronica. Let me do for you what they do for the dead, now, while you still breathe, your face simple as a lamb's pleading. Let me wash you into shape, prepare you to be seen, sew back the seams of broken skin, touch you with linen and balm, or wrap you tight in cotton and herbs, hide you from your task, seal you where you can't be found. Later, when you are dead, we shall cut the threads, open the cloth with the delicacy of silk, lifting off that other you, the one you carry now, leaving you clean, your new self.
The Jesus Doors Easter Stations. 15 doors, 29 painted panels concerning themes of Holy Week. This series was exhibited in the Church of the Resurrection and St. Barnabas in East Manchester for some 2 months from Palm Sunday in 2017. Themes such as violence, injustice, community, mourning, waiting were visually represented using charcoal and acrylic washes. They formed the basis for both led and private meditations during Holy Week and during Eastertide until Ascension. 28 paintings on 14 real doors offering a visual narrative of Jesus' last days on this earth and aiming to bring to life all that happened in Holy Week. These were exhibited from Holy Week until Ascension at the Church of the Resurrection, Beswick, in the Diocese of Manchester.
His strength totally failed him. Tradition tells us that Jesus, utterly exhausted, fell for the third time. In this piece, I wanted to explore the crushing heaviness that Jesus must have experienced carrying the cross. I did not want to move on too quickly from his pain and suffering to look for a good news story, such as Simon helping Jesus by carrying the cross. Instead, I invite the viewer to sit with Jesus at the point when it is literally too much and he can no longer stand. While it was not my intention, this feels particularly poignant now that we are living in lockdown. We know that beating coronavirus is a marathon, not a sprint, and we will spend a long time living under the weight of this virus and its catastrophic consequences. But we also know that our God, who was once so crushed that he could not stand, now stands broken with us in our brokenness.
Always tempted to sell myself short to lies that say I have no worth. I'm tempted by lovers who promise me nothing and say that's what I deserve. Are you really strong enough for my hurt? Do you really care enough to wear the blood and the dirt? Are you really strong enough for my hurt? Do you really care enough to wear the blood and the dirt? The blood and the dirt. Put a ring on my finger, and I put 2 nails in your hands. You put your robe on my back, I strip you naked. You put a ring on my finger, and I put 2 nails in your hands. You put your robe on my back, I strip you naked. You engage this whore, foreign in your love, with a promise that despite it all, I am yours. Despite it all, I am yours. I am yours. But are you really strong enough for my hurt? Do you really care enough to wear the blood and the dirt? Are you really strong enough for my hurt? Do you really care enough to wear the blood and the dirt? The blood and the dirt. You put a ring on my finger, and I put 2 nails in your hands. You from a whore to a bride, from a prostitute to someday a wife, from a whore to a bride, from a prostitute to someday a wife, from a whore to a bride, from a prostitute to someday a wife. Yeah. Oh. So now my life's pursuit is to know you, and all I have I give to you. I don't know how it works, and sometimes it hurts, but Jesus, you're making me new. A broken heart and sunder is all I have to give to you, God. I know that it's not enough, but because of your love, you delight in what I give to you. Yeah, you're making me beautiful. Oh, you're making me beautiful. You're making me beautiful. Whoa, you're making me beautiful. Yeah. So call all the poor and the broken, call all the hungry and the homeless, call all the orphans to the wedding. We're gonna marry the Lamb. Call all the poor and the broken, call all the hungry and the homeless, call all the orphans to the wedding. We're gonna marry the Lamb. Call all the poor and the broken, call all the hungry and the homeless, call all the orphans to the wedding. We're gonna marry the Lamb. Call all the poor and the broken, call all the hungry and the homeless, call all the orphans to the wedding. We're gonna marry the Lamb. We're gonna marry the Lamb. 'Cause He's making us beautiful. He's making us beautiful. Everyone, He's making us beautiful. He's making us beautiful. Yeah. Mm.
I already had the cross made of nails. I don't look at it much. I don't like the passion. I don't like facing things that frighten me and don't make sense, or things that force me to stop and acknowledge pain or darkness. Particularly now, it all feels a bit much. I tried to make this composition as tastefully gritty as possible, but how do you portray the pivotal moment, the literal crux of an execution? This station makes us look at the moment where all hope for Jesus' human life has to be abandoned. Everyone watching must acknowledge that death is now inevitable. There's no last-minute reprieve, and it's all over bar the agony. There's no socially appropriate way to portray that in a photo that isn't going to make us sick. I stuck some forget-me-nots at the bottom on a whim. Oh look, it's a symbol of remembrance, and it points to the conclusion of this season, to Easter and of the resurrection. Because art, right? New life, in green and blue, in contrast to the earthy, mucky colours of the Passion, as Jesus is pierced by nails and lifted up. I'm still not sure if it was the right thing to do. It feels offensive, certainly jarring to include the flowers at the foot of the cross. It seems crass in a time of violence, senselessness and grief to draw attention to beauty and suggest new growth can come out of such horror. And it is horrific what we are seeing. Both Jesus, nailed to a frame and hung up to die, and the present moment we find ourselves in right now, where we're so brutally disrupted as a society. The most vulnerable are in a situation where, now more than ever, there is no respite or escape from danger or pain. People living with abusive household members, those who are living alone in small spaces with no outside access, those in hospital, those who are sick. So I don't know, perhaps I shouldn't have those flowers there. Maybe the point of the Stations of the Cross is to ground us in this moment of pain and force us to pause here, to recognize that there's no human privilege, power, or leverage that can let us weasel out of reality. We gaze here at inescapable death.
My God, how could you do it? I followed you, I had hope in you, and it led me here. My God, why have you forsaken me? Eli, Eli, lima sabachthani. My God, how could you reach out to us? Across the islands of pain you stretch out a broken hand. Across the gulf of death you died. In this image, I wanted to use the overlaying of images to explore the complex nature of Jesus' identity. The lion looks out at us. He is fearsome, his eyes otherworldly, and his mane is fire and life. He is the Lion of Judah, the God of the people of Israel, and the creator of the universe who brings light out of the darkness. The man looks down. His body is yellowy pale with death, chin to chest, his breath is gone. He was the Messiah, the suffering servant. His body hangs heavy, pulling down to the earth where he is laid. The Lamb is slain for the sins of the world. But it is the Lamb who will sit on the throne of God. We have 3 images here and 3 identities, but there is only one Jesus. Do you see him?
Samson knew what it was for strength to grow out of weakness. His hair shorn, he is blinded and made a slave, and in his new weakness he is forgotten until his strength returns and he is able to rise up again against his enemies. Jesus experienced the total weakness of humanity. He died and was placed in the tomb. He must have looked fragile and broken as, unanointed, the stone is rolled over the entrance, leaving him in darkness. We do not know how long he lay there. When Samson was traveling, he came across a lion and killed it. When he returns, he finds that a hive of bees had nested in the carcass. He eats some of the honey and later says in a riddle, "Out of the strong came something sweet." Jesus was not without strength. He went to his crucifixion willingly. He chose weakness and was slain, the Lion of Judah, shorn of his power, or so it seemed. From Jesus' death comes something so much sweeter. At the point at which he is in the tomb, his disciples do not yet know this. They are broken and fearful and believe all is lost. Perhaps we feel like this at the moment. Things which we thought were strong and secure, our jobs, our way of life, those we love, now seem as though they could be lost. Our foundations have been shaking, just as the disciples must have felt their whole world slipping away from them. But we know what they did not know, the sweetness of the hope offered by Jesus' death, and in the silence of the cave, the whisper of resurrection.